You're watching Chili Boy Productions. I'm Larry Chili Boy Chilson, and this is my ranking of every Marvel Cinematic Universe film all the way through Eternals. Now, before we get into this ranking, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my new videos. So it has been a few years at this point, well, since Endgame, since I have done a complete Marvel Cinematic Universe ranking, and with one of the MCU's most divisive films upon us in Eternals, what better time than now to go ahead and give my own personal ranking and opinions on each of the 26 films released to date. Originally, I had planned to go ahead and hold this off until No Way Home's release, but not to worry, I will be doing a Spider-Man and Venom movie ranking following No Way Home. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss that content when it drops in December. For today, just remember, it's only my own personal ranking. We all love and dislike our own specific things within each of these films. They each hold certain specialties for everyone in different ways. So it's only my personal list, and I can't wait to see your rankings in the comments below. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our countdown. Kicking us off at number 26, aka my least favorite MCU film, I have Iron Man 2. Initially, this was up at least a couple of spots before I did a MCU rewatch during the pandemic and realized it is just a mess. I'm sorry, it's a mess. Tony's personality arc does not go anywhere desirable in this film. The entire villain subplots are also a mess. The plot itself just was so jumbled and unfocused as Tony is running around as this playboy superhero. I definitely think it's the sloppiest MCU film to date, and was the one I got least amount of enjoyment from on a recent rewatch. Coming in at number 25, I have The Incredible Hulk. And for a long time, this was my least favorite of the MCU films. It's just disjointed, other than one solitary character that has come over. Nothing else really links this to the cinematic universe as a whole. The character designs are cool, and the Hulk himself is pretty awesome, but I just think it's a pretty bland film overall. From a visual standpoint, it's pretty bland. From a story standpoint, it's bland. There aren't any choices that endear me to this film. And all the rest of the films on here may have bigger, blaring problems, but they at least have moments or aspects to them that I really enjoy. So, kind of by default, it's the one I care least about, and that's why it falls to 25. Coming in at 24, I have Thor: The Dark World. Sequel to Thor would have been really good, I think, and a lot of fun if we just stopped trying to focus on this damn romance. It doesn't work. They don't have good chemistry. It just brings the entire first two Thor films down by and large. Also, Malekith and the Dark Elves are so bland, possibly the worst of the Marvel main villains. However, Thor and Loki's relationship is really fun in this film. Their banter and their growth as brothers is really well handled, and they're both so damn charming that you kind of still have a good time amongst the mess that is the film. Coming in at 23, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Maybe a hot take, I don't know, but Guardians 2 is it for me, really. Once again, there are some really strong aspects to the film, particularly Gamora and Nebula and their relationship and their growth here works really well and was my favorite of the kind of subplots that were happening. The visuals are also really fun. And of course, we get It's Mary Poppins, which is really fun and iconic. And Baby Groot is not only adorable, but quite hilarious in this film, whether he's dancing in front of the battles or trying to figure out what Rocket wants to steal. He has some shining moments. Unfortunately, just like that little bit of recapping I did, the script is all over the place. We split the Guardians up, so they're all off on these little separate missions. We don't get a lot of that fun dynamic that makes the first one such a good time. Not to mention, Drax is insufferable in this film. 22, I have Ant-Man and the Wasp. When it comes to action, this film is easily better than its predecessor, particularly because the Wasp, she's just so much more capable and adds a new flair to the fighting. And Paul Rudd is always charming. He could literally read a cereal box and he is still going to charm your socks off. However, once again, we have the case of two separate villain stories, and one of them means nothing. That entire subplot with Walton Goggins and his crew is pointless. It adds a gag or two of jokes, but it should have been cut, honestly. Then we could have added more time and more development and really delved into this kind of harrowing backstory of Ghost, who actually could have been a top tier Marvel villain, but she's so underutilized and underdeveloped that she's kind of disappointing. It has its fun moments. I enjoy it enough as I watch. At the end of the day, it's definitely bottom tier MCU. Coming in at number 21, I have Iron Man 3. So this film has some passionate defenders. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. Iron Man 3 does some interesting things and it delves into some interesting ideas. I really do love going through this PTSD post Avengers with Tony Stark. I think it's really fascinating. I love the idea of these suits, but the bait and switch of the villain is not just a comic book inaccuracy problem that is somewhat fixed in Shang-Chi, it's just a boring problem. You wasted a great actor, a more fun, if not stereotypical character, to give us another guy in a suit who gets superpowers with Guy Ritchie's character. It didn't work. Also, we spend too much time in that little town with that kid. No. Coming in at number 20, I have Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel suffers most from just being middle of the road, honestly. It does some fun things and has some fun moments, but I don't really feel a whole lot leaving the film. But I do love Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, and I think the character is fun in her kind of dry sass that she has. Plus, I love her relationship with Rambo here. I really love her relationship with Fury. I think their dynamic is fantastic. And the twist is kind of a fun little moment with Jude Law. Special effects wane into meh territory. As I said, I just didn't connect with the script as much as I did with most all of the films higher up on the list. It's not bad, but it's not one of my favorites in the MCU. Coming in at number 19, I have Ant-Man. A perfectly enjoyable little romp. Paul Rudd is the selling point when it comes to Ant-Man. Again, he's just so dang charming, so fun and funny. I find it infinitely more funny than the sequel, and that's really why I enjoy it more than the sequel. Lang is a fun enough character, and I do really enjoy his connection with his daughter. But once again, we're given a meh villain. It's fun, it's easy, it's breezy, it's fine. Number 18, I have Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, I used to actually have this quite a bit higher because there's a lot that I love in Age of Ultron. The whole final battle, I think, is a lot of fun. I enjoy Wanda in this film, particularly, and Pietro to an extent. Once again, the idea of delving into the darkness in these heroes' minds is really fascinating. Plus, we get Ultron and Vision, and I do think Ultron is a really fun villain for the most part. Unfortunately, it's saddled with a lot of things I really don't like. I don't really care about going to Clint's family's house so that we can't kill him ever. I really don't care and don't like the romance between Bruce and Natasha. It makes no sense. It's just awkward and leads to the worst moments in this entire film. Plus, one of the uglier Marvel films to me, which I know people think all of them are ugly. This one is particularly unpleasant to look at moments. So, Age of Ultron has some big highs, but has some horrible lows. Coming in at 17, I have Black Widow. The film, released at the very latest, 3 years too late, Natasha Romanoff finally gets a solo project, and it's fine. It's okay. Action and hand to hand fighting is really entertaining. Then we get the wonderful Florence Pugh in here as Yelena, and Natasha's great in her own film. Plus, probably the biggest positive is this allegory to real world feminine problems and specifically female trafficking. The opening to this movie is actually one of the darkest and most daring things the MCU has done. Unfortunately, after that opening, they just drop that daring, dark thematic moment and delve into more of the same that we've seen. CGI isn't great. The villain, once again, is highly underwhelming. And honestly, it just left me upset thinking back on how disrespected Natasha Romanoff was as a character before she was killed. And then, oops, let's give her a movie. Coming in at number 16, I have Captain America, the First Avenger. I wane on this one. Sometimes I really want to move it higher on my list. Other times I feel this is probably the safe spot for it. And clearly, I'm in the latter type of mode currently. The first Captain America film does so much great, and it actually feels like a really wholesome throwback type of movie. Steve and Peggy, right alongside Steve and Bucky, are easily the best romantic relationship in the MCU, maybe up until Wanda and Vision in their series. But when it comes to films, hands down, this romance is the most authentic, the most genuine. It just feels right. Plus, the World War I setting and the values of Captain America ring so true here in the film. I guess the problem is, I just don't love wholesome, sweet, good golly molly type of heroes as much. With Steve, it rings so much more true, though, so that certainly helps. And again, the Red Skull stuff is a lot of fun. I just maybe wish we had a little bit more of it or less of it. Merging from the World War aspects into the superhero maniacal villain stuff does feel a little bit stitched together, but overall, The First Avenger is a wonderful film. So next up in this mid-portion tier, I have Thor at number 15. I have a soft spot for Thor. He is my favorite of the Avengers. Obviously, I love me some Chris Hemsworth, and I think he's perfect for the role. And he's what really sells this first film in many ways. I love the fish out of water aspect of Thor being on world, getting to see his character development just in this one film. It's nothing new. We've seen it a lot, and that's probably why it doesn't move higher on my list, but it works well and it's a lot of fun. Plus, Loki, oh, a villain icon was born right here with Tom Hiddleston's amazing portrayal of the character. Now, once again, we're back to trying to sell this romance. It works better in Thor than it did in The Dark World, but it still doesn't work all that great. The final battle is entertaining enough, but really lacked something. However, Kenneth Branagh definitely brought one of the more unique visual films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and still to this day, I think it is one of the most beautiful when it comes to cinematography. At number 14, I have Spider-Man Far From Home. I love Tom Holland, just like with Chris Hemsworth. I love Tom Holland, and I think he is a fantastic Spider-Man and Peter Parker. He is really perfect as high school Peter to me. And here in Far From Home, he really is starting to get his powers. And I loved that struggle. I really enjoyed getting to see Spider Man struggle with being a kid and being a student versus being a hero all the time and just wanting to live his life and be a high schooler. I also love Mysterio. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is a blast with Mysterio. He's having so much fun and it works. Not to mention, MJ is awesome in this film. I love Zendaya and I love, obviously, their great chemistry and appeal together. However, or that villain motivation, we're pushing it. We're pushing it a little bit here. Some of these visuals are a mess, and particularly the screenplay, it wanes in quality as we move throughout. But there's a lot of fun here. I have a good time watching Far From Home. There's just also some cringe to go along with it. Coming in at number 13, I have Spider Man Homecoming. The big problem with Spider Man Homecoming is balance. And honestly, balance is a bit of a problem in that sequel as well, but it's really evident in Homecoming. I love the film when it's being like kind of a superhero y version of a huge 80s teen comedy when we're just getting to be with Peter as a student. It's by far my favorite. And I love those aspects. I think they're so fun. The comedy works so well with these characters. And once again, Tom Holland is so charming and so charismatic in the role. He just sells it. But it really struggles blending that in with the superhero film. It really wants to stay small, but can't because of the MCU universe. It's really forced trying to take on these big set piece moments. Obviously, we're bringing in Tony Stark, and it's a little bit much with all this Tony Stark mentor stuff. But thankfully, I think the film finds its footing again with the battle, with Peter really trying to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. The twist with the villain is amazing. And oh my God, it's handled so good. Michael Keaton is fantastic in this film. And their final battle is really wonderful. Homecoming has a little bit of identity crisis that keeps it from moving higher, but I think it's a really fun film. At number 12, I have Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange really balances unique and familiar. We have Tony Stark type of sarcastic, a-hole, overconfident rich dude being brought down to earth type of trope. But wow, the visuals are freaking cool. I mean, everything to do with the powers is amazing. When we go into the other realms, it's amazing. I do have to say, I love Tilda Swinton, though miscast to begin with. I think she's fantastic as the Ancient One. Once again, the romance, just do away with it. And the villain situation here is terrible. I thought the villains were horrible. Mads Mikkelsen is so underutilized, and then Dormammu, please, that was terrible. I have fun watching it. The score's great, but that villain really kills it. Coming in at number 11, I have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. One of the newest MCU films is a bright spot for the ongoing franchise. What a wonderful reinvigoration of the superhero origin story. Simu Liu is really wonderful as Shang-Chi himself. But I have to say, he gets a little bit of stage, to be honest, by his sister in the film, who comes forward and steals a bit of the spotlight and allure with her backstory. But what I loved most about Shang-Chi is the fantastical elements. We got like a superhero fantasy film, but Shang-Chi also comes through with the great hand-to-hand combat scenes. There are some amazing action set pieces in this film. Some of the humor, Aquafina's character, but outside of that, I think Shang-Chi is a great movie. Kicking us off at number 10, I have Guardians of the Galaxy. What a fun movie. Top to bottom, hilarious. Our cast have great chemistry together. Rocket and Groot, oh, amazing. The action is also a lot of fun. But here we go. Poor villain. Ronan, I was so excited to get to see him in full action. And what? For what? Nothing. Design was cool, but he gets beaten in a freaking dumb dance battle. I hate that dance battle, y'all. Like a lot. Not to mention Gamora, particularly quite underutilized in her entire tenure of Guardians, but certainly here in this film. But the soundtrack's fire, and it is probably still the funniest and most just generally fun Marvel movie to date. At number 9, I have Iron Man. Yes, the original, the one that started it all. Rewatching Iron Man over a decade later, this movie freaking holds up. These visual effects in this film are still fantastic and honestly hold up better than several of the more recent movies in this universe. Robert Downey Jr. is perfect as Tony Stark, and he is amazing in this first film. I really enjoy the character work that is done on Tony just in this one film. Enjoy his will they, won't they banter with Pepper Potts. I do think Bridges is great as Obadiah, our villain in this film, and it makes for an interesting villain, though very predictable situation there. Iron Man's great, and it kicked off the entire universe. Coming in at number 8, I have Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Probably a little lower than most of y'all will have it on your list, I'm sure, because this is one of the beloveds. However, I do really, really have a good time with Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Steve Rogers is great, and this is the film that takes him on his character growth arc. I love watching him have to come to grips with the fact that his government and those that he thought were good and on his side betrayed him. The action is okay. I think we have all come to really become a little bit disenchanted with the way this shaky cam action was filmed, but nevertheless, the Winter Soldier himself is such an intimidating presence. Sebastian Stan does an amazing job as that character, and the connection back with Steve in that big reveal is still amazing. And we get Natasha in on the action here as well. It's kind of a spy espionage action film. It's a lot more grounded than so many of the other Marvel films, but grounded, as you heard with Shang-Chi, not really my thing in superhero films. I prefer the big superpowered stuff. It probably just comes down to personal preference thing. It is the best of the grounded action movies. At number 7, I have Eternals. Yes, the most divisive film to date, and I have it quite high on my list. Honestly, I wanted to put it higher. I really, really did. I just couldn't quite get myself to do it after one viewing. But y'all, I love Eternals, period. I love it. I think it is so human and beautiful. Chloe Zhao crafted the, hands down, most beautiful film in the entire universe. The cinematography is stunning. The visual effects are also really interesting to blend into the stunning naturalistic way that she films the movie. Our cast is all wonderful, and these characters, I fell in love with each and every one of them watching this film. I loved their connection to one another. I loved their connection to Earth. The humor was integrated into these characters. It didn't feel like dropped in, pow, 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 MCU, ha 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 type of humor throughout. The action felt organically placed. Everything flowed well for me. I enjoyed going through this mythology. I honestly loved pretty much everything about this film. I had very few gripes, and I am dying to go watch it again. I'm interested to see if that love I had watching it the first time maintains, or if I start to feel like a lot of other critics out there have felt about the film and it works its way lower on the list. But as it is right now, I adore it, and it ranks as one of my favorite Marvel films. It's in the top tier for me, clearly, ranking in at number 7. And at number 6, I have Thor Ragnarok. I love Ragnarok, y'all. Ragnarok is a blast. It is the best and most fun Thor film to date. It brings Thor further in what is, in my opinion, the best personal hero arc in the MCU. I think Thor goes through the best transformation, but we're going to talk about that in a film coming up. Valkyrie is amazing. Loki is once again wonderful. The dynamic the three of them have together is so good. Korg is introduced. He's a delight. And then Jeff Goldblum, being Jeff Goldblum, is always a good time. Now, the stuff with the Hulk is fun. Not my favorite, but it's fun. Hella. Oh, delicious, fabulous woman. Hella. I wish we had gotten just a bit more out of her, but I still adore it. The visuals are amazing. It's this beautiful film. The character and the tone is some of the best in the entire MCU. And getting Chris Hemsworth to just lean in full throttle in the comedy direction was a very smart choice because Hemsworth looks like an action hero hunk, which he is. He's great at that too. Wow. When you get to blend in action hero hunk with a whole lot of funny, yeah, you struck the gold. So coming in at number 5, I have Avengers Infinity War. Now, coming out of the film, this actually was quite lower on my list, but I've come to appreciate it more with time. First of all, it has some of the most amazing moments in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, particularly Thor's entrance to Wakanda still ranks as like top 3 singular moments in the entire universe. Oh, I screamed in the theater. I was so hyped when he arrived. Plus, when Cap shows up, that's an amazing entrance as well. The entire battle at Wakanda is fantastic. It has stakes. It's a lot of fun. We have that humor mixed in with this big, grand, beautiful battle. I mentioned it in my Ragnarok discussion with Thor here caps off, at least to this point, an amazing arc. His arc from the first Thor film through to, I'll say, even Endgame, but particularly Infinity War, I mean, unmatched. It was so good. And we get to see the villain win, which is freaking awesome. And saying that, yes, movie fans and me going in, they left us on this cliffhanger that was like a end of part 1 for me because we knew that, hello, we were coming back. Really, other than that, my only major issue with Infinity War is Gamora and how she's handled. The fact that she's relegated and her entire story arc is centered around being a daughter and being a girlfriend really bothered me. And the fact that she dies here without ever getting to truly show that badass she is, without ever displaying being the baddest assassin in the entire galaxy, was upsetting. But by and large, Infinity War is a grand scaled epic. Coming in at number 4, I have Black Panther. Black Panther, better than any other film in here, brings in real world issues, discusses relevant topics, but makes it feel organic to the world that we're discovering. No other film inside of the MCU has even come close to touching that as Black Panther did. Plus, they built this really beautiful organic country that feels as though it's a part of Earth, but feels so distinct and different from literally every other world, including off-worlds that we've had throughout the universe. T'Challa is great, but these ladies around him steal the show. Okoye is my girl, and Shuri, well, we're not going to hold Letitia Wright against you because Shuri's great in this movie. The comedy works, the action is amazing. Yeah, there's some wonky CGI in the end, but once again, it comes down to what I felt watching this movie and the feelings and the empowerment it leaves you as you build up to that ending is so fantastic. Not to mention the score and soundtrack, some of Marvel's best work. At number 3, I have Avengers Endgame. Yeah, I think a couple of these top 3 might have some people shook. I know a lot of people prefer Infinity War to Endgame, but for me, Endgame is just it. Yeah, there's some weird kind of problems in the logic, but honestly, I didn't care. And I still don't care because, as you've heard throughout this, I really go by how I feel watching the film. As long as the logistics don't get in the way and actively pull me out of my investment, I don't care. And in Endgame, they never did. The most emotional film in the entire universe. It really hits on and rings true in each and every emotion you feel. That portal scene is still the most epic thing I've ever watched in film, period. And that score to go with it. Oh, yes. Thor continues his amazing journey. I wish we didn't like shame him for being fat. That's the part that bothers me. I enjoyed Thor just losing it and giving up and being depressed. And that moment where he realizes he's still worthy. Bring on the waterworks. It's amazing. Captain America and Tony Stark both realize their final end game in this film in a beautiful way. Natasha, disrespected, deserved better, and deserved more. That's what I'll say there. Action is some of the best. The scale and scope, the stakes are so high and amazing here. I adore Endgame. I think it's amazing. Coming in at number 2, my runner-up position, I have Captain America: Civil War. Another divisive film within the Marvel ranks, though I think this one more heavily comes down to it doesn't follow the comics versus it does. Honestly, I don't care because I think they crafted a fantastic film regardless. The idea behind this film is amazing, and the conflict between the heroes feels organic and earned. Action set pieces are stellar here, but once again, it comes down to the emotion of what's happening. Watching Steve so fervently fight for his love, I mean, his bestie. Also, watching Tony see that video and hear that Cap knew what had happened. You understood. You got it. I got it for sure. That final battle between Bucky and Cap versus Iron Man is one of the most visceral and brutal things in the entire MCU, and it's so charged with emotion that it's literally breathtaking. Plus, we get Zemo, who is one of the few villains to succeed in this universe. He gets his wish and he does what he set out to do. And we get the introduction of Black Panther, and oh my god, he steals the damn show. Civil War is fantastic. And honestly, oh, after all these years, it's coming really close, I think. So close to jumping to that number 1 spot. But for this ranking, I couldn't quite get myself to do it. So, at number 1, my favorite film in the MCU is The Avengers. What can I say? I'm a basic beach. I know it's fun to dunk on this film now. Lots of people have turned against it because of Joss Whedon stuff. And a lot of people just think it hasn't aged well. It feels like a little bit of a butt of a joke in this day and age. But I still love it. Watching it again, I still love it. I love the oversaturated brightness of it, first of all, which is something I know people are making fun of, is how it looks. I think it looks awesome. I think it looks fantastic. It fits the tone of what the movie is asking. Seeing these heroes come together is still one of the most amazing moments of my entire life in cinema, and watching them come together now is a blast. Seeing Thor enter is amazing. Their interaction and conflicts with one another are so freaking fun. Marvel humor works most of the time in this film, and the action set pieces are epic and amazing. Yes, this is before we started worrying about those silly things called consequences, but it makes for a good time. Loki is such a damn good villain in this film. He is charismatic and fun, and watching him play with these Avengers is a great time. Not to mention, we get introduced to that Alan Silvestri theme for the MCU and Marvel Avengers. We get those epic fan service lines. I love almost everything about this film. I think it's a blast. It is the quintessential Marvel film for me. When I think of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I instantly go to the first Avengers. It's fun, it's big, it's epic, it's bright, it's not self-serious. It just brings that comic book feeling to life for me. So that's it. That is my ranking for all of the MCU films from Iron Man through to the Eternals. Let me know, what do you think of my ranking? I know yours is going to be very different. I know I'm probably stupid for putting this here or putting that there, but it's just my ranking. I want to know yours in the comment section down below, or of course you can hit me up on Twitter. If you liked this video, hit that like button down below. With that, I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.